Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me today. Thank you, Nicole. I am so excited to be crafting with everyone. We are going to be making some very fun monster handprints today. We are only a couple weeks away from Halloween, and so we've got some fun little spooky monster hands, and you can mess with them and play with them in any direction you want. We've got a few different examples here, creating little dangly eyeballs, or this one has little lightning fingers. You can do pom-poms and eyes. There's no wrong or right way to make your own little monster hand. So I'm going to go through all of the supplies. The number one thing you're going to need is your own hand. We're going to be tracing our handprints, which means you're going to need a marker and then paper or foam sheets. So I made all of my hands out of foam sheets. So I've got a few different color options here, all different foam colors. And the foam sheets are really bendable and pliable, so they don't crease like paper does, but it's really easy to cut and a little bit thicker than a piece of paper. So you could definitely do this craft with paper if you don't have foam sheets, but I'm just using my Creatology foam sheets if you want to make yours out of the same material. And then you're going to need a pair of scissors. And then from there, you can use any crafting supplies that you might have at home to decorate yours in 1,000 different ways. So I've got pom-poms. I have a little bowl of sequins here. We've got foam stars, glitter pins. I have, of course, wiggly eyes in a bunch of different sizes. We can do rhinestones, and these are the Creatology little rhinestone shapes that they have adhesive on the back. So you just peel off the back. And then if you want to add any little details, like something like this with hanging elements, or something like this one that we stitched little pieces together, we're going to be using plastic needles and some yarn. And again, all of those are optional pieces. So you might want to just use markers or paint, and you can do that. Or you can use glitter, and you can cut out extra shapes from foam or from paper, even cardboard. So again, there's a ton of different ways to decorate your hands. So I challenge all of you to be creative and make some fun monsters with me. So I'm going to flip my camera around and we can get started here. So got all of our supplies here. Be able to get started. So with this craft, as I said, the majority of what you need is really just paper or foam. And then you can decorate it in so many different fun ways. So we're going to start with a piece of foam sheet and a marker. And you can use any color that you want in all of these fun examples here. You can see we've got lots of different colors. So even if you are just using white paper at home, you can make a really fun handprint still. And then you're going to take your hand. So using your non-dominant hand, so if you normally write with your right hand, put your left hand on your paper, and you're going to trace around your hand. And you can make different hand shapes if you want to. You can spread your hand really wide, or you can keep your fingers really close together, depending on the shape of the monster that you want. So I'm going to spread my fingers out a little bit wider. And then with my marker in my other hand, I'm going to start at my wrist, and I'm going to trace along the edge of my fingers and my hand. And I'm using a black marker from my Creatology marker set. So it is washable. So if you get it on your hand, it's no big deal. And there is my handprint. We're also going to cut this handprint out. So if you messed up at all, or if you have a few areas like I do along the tip of my finger or different spots that don't line up. It's really just a template to give you an idea of where to cut. All right, so next we're going to actually cut out our shape. So I'm going to take my scissors. I'm going to cut through my foam, and I'm just going to cut right along the inside of my line. So I like to kind of use the edge of my line of where to guide my scissors, but I'm just going to cut on the inner edge, and that's going to make that line disappear. And as Nicole said at the beginning, as we are getting started here, if you have any questions, feel free to put that in the Q&A. Maybe you're using a different material at home or you're using different colors. I'd love to know. So fill us in on what is going on with you. Or again, if you have any questions on different materials or want to see something again, we can do that. Okay, I'm at this point where if you've crafted with me before, you might know that I like to cut all this extra off. So this is starting to get a little bit in my way as I'm cutting. So I'm going to just cut along the top and remove all that extra. Now your scissors aren't fighting with that. It's not hitting your table. Anything to make a step a little bit easier, I like to use. All right.
Ooh,
So
Isabella has a great question, Tessa. How
yeah.
can we get decorative if the paper is really dark?
Oh, as far as like actually decorating it, is that what
That's the impression I get.
great. Yeah, absolutely. Like on this one here, you can see I used black foam on this little hand example, and then I used different color foam to add details. So I did colorful foam stars and little lightning bolts, and then I used silver glitter to add brightness to the hand. So you could definitely use glitter, and you could use other materials as well that maybe have more color in them. If you're struggling to see your own handprint on your paper, sometimes actually on black paper, a pencil works better. It's a little bit of that metallic look from the pencil lead, and that might be easier to see than a marker. But you can definitely use dark color paper. I think that that is a really fun idea. So you could just use lighter color materials to decorate it instead. And then you can use, again, we've got little sequins and rhinestones and all sorts of things that we can glue on with glue dots and Elmer's glue, or I've got little white liquid glue from Creatology here. So you can just add any little details on that are different colors and maybe a lighter color to stand out against your dark background. Okay, so as we get to the end of cutting out our first little handprint here, you can definitely create a wrist if you want to, or you can just kind of round out the bottom of where your palm is and just connect to where you started cutting. So there is our first little handprint here. And we can do as many hands as you want. So we're going to make a couple monsters together. We've got a little bit of time. So I'm going to start with decorating this one, and then we can let that dry a little bit and we can start a second monster together. So if anyone has a specific thing that they've seen in the photos or some of these little handprints that you want to see, definitely let me know. but I'm going to do a few different options all together here. So it doesn't have to look exactly like any of these examples. But now that we have our little handprint here, and you can also flip your hand either way. So once you have it cut out, you could flip it around depending on which direction you want your hand to be. And you can also decorate it this way if you want your handprint facing down. Okay, so to decorate our little and turn these handprints into a monster, I think the main thing that helps create the monster is our wiggly eyes. And I've got a couple different sizes here. So depending on what you have at home, you might have different sizes than I do for a few out here. So we've got some big eyes, some little eyes. You can mix and match as much as you want. And then the glitter pins go a long way. So I've got my whole stack of glitter markers here, glitter glue pins. And as you can see, lots of different color options in this little pack. And so you can do all sorts of little details. Using glue dots is the easiest thing to do when attaching the eyes. But again, you could definitely use a liquid glue. It will hold and will dry against the foam. It just might take a little longer to dry. So I would definitely glue them and then set your hand aside and let that dry before you move it around. But if you're using glue dots, they come on this little roll and we've just got that little kind of yellowish shiny circle there. And I'm just gonna stick one onto the back of a wiggly eye and then peel that off. You can see I've got that little dot right in the center. And then you can start with adding, just press it straight onto your foam hand. And you can do that with multiple little eyes. If your glue dots are a little bit big, you can kind of bend them back onto your smaller eyes. Gonna do a couple little eye clusters here. And these are really fun. These would be really cute little Halloween gifts or cards. You could write people's names on the back of them if you wanted to. Or you could pin them all up on your walls as decorations. You can get everyone in the family involved, and so you can have all different size handprints.
Hey, Tessa, I have another great question.
Oh.
Someone said, I've got a kiddo here who would love any ideas to create a unicorn.
Oh, a unicorn. That's a great idea. Well, I would probably, I mean, you could do a couple different things, but you could definitely turn your hand upside down and then you could attach a unicorn horn and to the top. You could attach it to one of the fingers as well, but say you cut out a little wavy unicorn horn. Could attach a little horn to the top. We'll just turn this little monster hand into a little monster unicorn. You could definitely just do one or two eyes. You don't have to do a bunch of eyes for a unicorn, but you could add a little horn to the top and then maybe then adding either rhinestone flowers or cut out some flowers along the horn. Give it that little unicorn vibe. You can mix and match. I'm using these, again, I've got these little rhinestone or gems, sticky gems from Creatology, and they come in all different shapes and colors and things. So these are the little floral ones. We add some little flowers, give it a little unicorn-esque look. You could also add a horn to any sort of monster if you wanted to. And then maybe adding some glitter. So using our glitter pins then. Add some little lines to make it look like a little swirl almost of a unicorn horn. And with these glitter glue pins, as they dry, you can see on something like this. So here it looks like big globs of glue, but it dries totally flat and all of that goo dries it clear and will just be little stripes of pink glitter. Maybe little glitter dots. They just got little glitter dots around the eyes. Little flowers. You could add more little rhinestones on the little finger parts as well. And of course, we're using a hand shape, so it's not going to look exactly like a unicorn, but I think you can get an idea of it being unicorn inspired.
They said, thanks so much. She's so excited.
Oh, good. Well, I love the idea of a unicorn and turning these into all sorts of ideas. Maybe your monster is inspired by your upcoming Halloween costume. And so you can definitely turn them into all sorts of things. Not all monsters are scary monsters. Like, look, that's a cute monster. And so as you can see, you can get as creative as you want. You can add all sorts of little details and turn it into a little unicorn monster instead. Again, with all of the glitter options too, you can mix and match colors and you can do, sometimes I like to do little stripes or little squiggles. And when I'm doing squiggles with the glitter glue pin, I'm just kind of going back and forth, making like a little rounded zigzag. If you don't have glitter glue pins at home, you could definitely use your loose Creatology glitter as well, and just do the same sort of shapes with regular glue, liquid glue, and then cover that in glitter. For any adults, parents that are crafting along with us, the glitter glue pins are very easy cleanup. So that's a perk. And they dry pretty quickly. And they are actually a glue as well. So you can actually stick some things into the glitter glue and it will adhere. So if you wanted to add some extra little details, you could stick it into the glue itself. And so as you see, we kind of created this little one together and decorated it as we went. Didn't have an exact method or plan. And I would say that that little handprint looks pretty much done. You can keep going and adding as much as you want. But I'm going to start from the beginning with a second handprint and we can make a different look. I'm gonna set this one aside so our glitter can start to dry. And we'll cut out, maybe we'll use that black foam sheet for our first crafter who is also using a black or dark background. And again, I'm using a black pen, so it might be a little hard for you at home to see, but I will say if you're using foam or even paper, oftentimes if you kind of tilt your material under the light, you can even see a black marker line. See if you can really see this, but I'm putting my hand directly on my paper or my foam, and then I'm going to trace it around it with my marker and then cut out my handprint. You can also you can trace someone else's hand as well. It doesn't have to be your own. But so even with a black marker, you can see as I tilt it in the light, I can see my marker line, and it makes it pretty easy to cut out still. You can also draw or trace a pet if you want. Maybe you want to make monster paw prints. You could do that. But handprints are always a fun gift idea too. So it's a cute little Halloween card to give to a parent or grandparent or a friend. So as I cut this out, again, I'm cutting kind of just along the inside edge of the line that I drew where I traced my hand. And that just makes the marker line disappear. You can always flip yours over as well if you still have some marker lines showing. And as you get to the end of cutting out your hand shape, again, you can definitely create a little wrist if you want to continue down, but I'm just going to kind of create a rounded edge and meet up where I started and just making the palm of my hand. So there we have our next little hand print here. And again, you can flip this over if you want your handprint to face a different direction. That is totally up to you. You can go either way. And then we can get started with decorating. So we can do, again, using our glue dots. You can start with adding in some different little details, maybe some of these little foam stars. You can also cut shapes out of foam. So if you don't have the little stars at home, you could easily draw a star or cut that out, or you can cut out little flower shapes or triangles or squares. I'm going to draw a little lightning just to do something similar to this little one here. So you can draw any shape you want. A little lightning bolt here. And so maybe you want to cut out hearts, or you want to cut out any sort of little ideas. Maybe you want to add teeth to yours, you cut out teeth. So you can draw any shapes that you want out of more foam or different color paper. If you only have one color paper or foam that you're working with, you could definitely color it with markers or paint if you want to add extra color. There, I just drew and cut out a little lightning bolt shape. And so you can layer these different things too if you want to. You could still add googly eyes on top of some of those shapes. You can put things, the googly eyes, on top of something as well. Doesn't have to go flat onto your hand. And so to do that, again, you can use different color, or you can use different glue options. So I can put a little bit of liquid glue on the back of this too. And it will take a little longer to dry, like I mentioned at the beginning, but it will definitely adhere to the foam. Just might take a couple extra moments for that to dry. So as you're doing that, just be careful as you add more elements on. And then these little foam stickers, they have little star shapes. And they'll just stick directly on. Take my glue dot onto the back of my eye. You can see I've got it kind of layering on top of each other. And then you can add little foam stars. And these all come in these exact colors, but again, you can definitely paint these as well, so you don't have to stick with only the colors that are in the box. You add little details to each finger is a fun detail to do. And then you can add all sorts of glitter options. Any glitter color will still show up. The darker one on the darker backgrounds, the darker glitter, like maybe this like dark blue, won't be quite as obvious, but you can mix and match different options still. It doesn't have to only be silver or gold. You could do like a lighter green color. And again, if you are using the glitter glue pins, they're going to be, it's going to look like thick little globs of glue at first, but that will all dry flat and clear other than just your glitter showing. And you can do bigger dots too. So sometimes you can just squeeze out a little bit of your glitter glue and then using just the tip of your pin, spread that little dot that you dropped out of it, just spread that around a little bit to make a circle. And you can make a larger glitter circle. And once you get going, you can kind of just look at yours and make a composition with all your different elements and decide where it looks like it's a little empty and you want to add a little extra something here or there. We'll add a little bit of, actually, let's do some gold. And then maybe I'll add some smaller gold dots, just so I have different size little polka dots all over my monster hand. And I'm just barely squeezing, and I can just a little bit at a time, come out and do little tiny dots on my little lightning bolt that we cut out. Against these glitter pins are glitter glue pins. You can add little things like rhinestones or googly eyes or sequins, and I can just drop them right into the actual glitter glue that I just drew on, and they will stick to it. So you don't have to add extra glue or glue dots. There you've got another little monster handprint. And so you can see all of that glitter and all these other colors of things show up really beautifully against your dark background. So if you're using black or navy or purple, you can still get away with lots of different glitter and fun details to make your own little monster. All right, let that one dry, set it aside a little bit. We'll do a little orange one. And on this next one, I'm going to use our plastic needles. So if you were interested in something like this style, where we kind of stitched a couple fingers together, or you want to add something that dangles off of it, or maybe even at the end, you just want to connect them all to make a fun garland. You can have them all kind of strung together and hang on a wall. Plastic needles, and this whole little set of them comes together. These are really easy to use. They're not too sharp, but they are easy to push through foam or paper even. And so we'll do a little detail with that. All right. So again, we're tracing our hand, and you can, again, you can do any sort of hand shape you want. You could even do a mitten shape. So if you wanted to just go around your fingertips and hold all your fingers together, you could do that. Spread it really wide. You can do whatever shape of a hand you want. You can also, maybe you want to do a scary monster or a creepy hand, and you only have, you want to have a finger falling off. You could stitch it back together. All right. So we're going to, again, cut right on the inside lines of what we just traced. Right, we're almost done cutting out our third monster hand, making a whole monster family over here. All right, there we have another little handprint. Again, depending on which way you want your hand to face, you can decide that as you go, or if you want to decide before you start. All right, so we're going to add some more little details here, and you can do a few different things. Maybe we want to do a little star shape here. So I'm going to take one of my stars and I'm going to cut it in half right through the middle. And again, if you don't have these little star shapes or you want to cut out a different shape, you cut out a different shape out of foam or paper and then cut it in half. And I'm going to put one half on one finger and then the other half on the finger next to it. So it looks like they're almost lining up. And then we can take some yarn and we can stitch them together as if they are connected still. So to do that, we're going to use our plastic needles. Of course, if you are crafting with an adult and you don't have plastic needles, but maybe an adult has regular sewing needles they want to help you with, you could definitely use that. But these plastic needles are great. They're, again, not super sharp. They have like a blunt tip, but they're just pointy enough that it's going to go through a lot of your material. And they have an eye of your needle, like any sewing needle, so you can stitch easily with it. So I'm going to take my yarn and I'm going to push it through the eye of my needle. And then on the other end, I cut off more than we need, but I cut off maybe a couple feet. And then I'm going to tie a little knot on the other end. So I strung my yarn through the eye of my needle. On the other end, I'm going to tie a little double knot. I'm going to overlap it and then pull that little tail through the center. And then do that again. So overlap, go under and pull it through the middle. And I'm just going to cut off that extra little bit. And then you're going to pull your needle, you're going to poke your needle through the back side so that your knot's on the back. So to do that, I'm going to push my needle through the back and poke it right through the front. And then you can decide where you want your needle, where you want your connecting spot to be. I'm going to poke it through the foam on the front and pull that all the way through. And then as I pull this over, I'm just not pulling it too tight so that I'm not like that. If you pull it too tight, you can start to get your fingers to actually be pushed into a different position, which if you want to do that, you could. Otherwise, just give it a little bit of space. You don't have to pull it too tight, just tight enough to pull it over. And then you can do another spot. So if you want to do another little pull through the back, come forward, and then I'm going to come back over on the other side to make a little X. And then on the back here, I'm just going to tie a little knot close to the foam as I can. So again, I'm just going to do a little overlapping of my yarn, pull my needle through that little loop I just made, and then pull it tight to make a little knot. And there you have some little adorable stitched detail. Makes it look like your little fingers are stitched together, or your star is being pulled back together. And we can do additional details. So we've already got our yarn here. So if we want to do some more little stitch details, I'm going to take my yarn. I'm going to push it through the eye or the hole in my needle. And then on the other end, I'm going to tie another knot. So I'm going to make a little circle overlapping my two pieces of yarn. Go underneath through the middle and pull it tight. Cut off the extra. And whether you want to add little elements to be dangling off of it, or we can add, maybe we'll do a little charm across the front here. So you could do like this. And then you could add other little details. So you could take some little rhinestones, and we're going to stick a couple together. So if I take two of these, peeled off the back of two different little hearts, and put one on the front of my yarn, and then take the other one and line it up to sandwich the yarn in between the two. Makes almost like a little bead then. You could also add beads if you wanted to, but we can also add some little eyeballs in the same way. So I can take a little bit of glue, a little bit of glue on one, and then put that on the yarn, and then take a second little eyeball and sandwich that together. It's going to take a little while for that to dry. You can use a glue dot too, because you're going to want to probably hold that together while that dries, because the yarn might push them apart. So let's do a glue dot instead. Take a glue dot. Put the glue dot onto the yarn, and then take another eye and sandwich that together. And I'm kind of doing these loosely on here, so then we'll be able to make almost like a little charm bracelet on here. I'm going to pull this through. And you can have this as long as you want. So if you want it to hang down lower, we can add more little glued on charms as we go. So I'm just going to tie a knot on the back. I got this little like dangly bracelet looking element, and you can add more little details here. So we're going to take another glue dot. We can add a couple more little eyes on. And so then this kind of has a little bit of movement, and you can do, again, any sort of little details you want to. And if you like the idea of either doing something like this little dangly bracelet or necklace on your hand, or something like this one, be the same thing. So I did similar. If you want something dangling, you just using a glue dot and sandwich your yarn between two little eyes, or two rhinestones, or two sequins, whatever your monster is calling for. All right, let's add some more little monster eyes here. And then to coordinate with our little purple star, I'm going to add some purple glitter. I'm going to do small dots. I'm just barely squeezing my glitter glue pin and just kind of pushing the little bit of glue that comes out. And again, you can kind of spread the glue that comes out of the tip of your pin with that little pointed tip to make bigger or smaller circles or draw squiggles. Let's do some little sequins maybe too. So I'm just going to use the glitter glue pin itself. I'm going to draw a few little random dots around, and then I'm going to cover those with some sequins. And if a little bit of glitter comes out around it, that's great. Why not? You can also just use regular liquid glue as well. I'm going to pull out some little purple sequins. Digging through my colors of sequins here, getting a couple light purple and dark purple. All right, and one more sequin on top of that little glue dot. And there you have a little stitched together sequin monster hand. And not only does your little chain here move, but also your googly eye moves. Got glitter going on, ready to go. So as you can see, with all of our fun monsters that we made together today, there is countless ways. I can only imagine the fun, creative ideas that you all had at home to make your own style monster hands. But I hope that you all had as much fun as I did crafting with you. And I hope that you enjoy your spooky season and enjoy crafting more monster hands. And I look forward to crafting with you all soon. Thanks so much for joining me and Michael's, and I'll see you soon.